Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Green Baby Day webinar, the first ever Green Baby Day. My name is Helen Lynn, and I am WEN's Health Advisor, the Environmental Campaign Manager, and also the Green Baby Co-Project Manager. And we're really delighted to be launching this first ever Green Baby Day from WEN, sponsored by Weleda. And thank you very much to Weleda for all your help and support in facilitating this project. Now, the is calling for a sustainable and toxic-free future for babies and children, but also their parents and carers. And it aims to provide information to help families make healthy, eco-friendly and affordable choices to minimize exposure to harmful chemicals. But more importantly, we think because it's not all about choice, nor should it be, it focuses the attention on our government's responsibility to ensure effective chemicals regulation to protect current and future generations, especially post-Brexit, as we have now moved away from the gold standard chemicals regulation REACH and other protections as well. So synthetic and man-made chemicals are found in our homes, in our workplaces, and also in the wider environment, for example, with things like air pollution, but also in almost everything in our homes, including in nursery furniture, plastic products, paints, clothes, and kids' toys as well. Now, some of these chemical ingredients are harmless, but many are linked to serious health issues and diseases such as cancer, birth defects, infertility, developmental, neurological, and autoimmune disorders. And children are particularly vulnerable as their little systems are just developing. But to the developing fetus, even smaller exposures can have serious and lifelong health consequences, especially at specific times during gestation. And strongly believes that as parents and carers, we have a right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment in which to live, work, and bring up our children. And this is why we need to be talking about harmful chemicals. Also, we mustn't forget the issues resulting from waste, from, for example, single-use disposable nappies, and also things like plastic toys, etc., which can have a detrimental effect on the environment after disposal, leaching their toxic ingredients into landfills or waterways. Now I turn to our wonderful panel, and we're really grateful for them for giving up their time to share their knowledge and expertise, and we're really lucky to have them all. Firstly, I'd like Brody, who is joining us from Virginia. Welcome, Charlotte. Charlotte is a registered nurse, the mother of 2 sons, and a new grandmother as well. So congratulations, Charlotte, to this new chapter in your life. She is the National Director for Healthy Babies, Bright Futures, and she's also the Vice President for Health Initiatives of the Blue-Green Alliance. She has led a Planned Parenthood affiliate and been among the founders of the Brown Lung Association, the international organization Healthcare Without Harm. If you've never heard of them, do check out these organizations. The Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, Green for All, and Safer Chemicals, Happy Families. So an awful lot of experience in this field. Charlotte has previously served as the Executive Director of Commonweal and also Healthcare Without Harm. So welcome, Charlotte. Next, I'd like to introduce our very own Linda Tai. She is one of the Green Baby project managers and a mother of 1. She previously worked as an occupational therapist. However, a long-term interest in helping the environment led her to complete her master's in public health. She joined WEN in 2020 and is also a founder and co-director of Sunny Jar Eco Hub, which is a wonderful social enterprise that teaches sustainable living skills and runs community eco projects in Tower Hamlets and beyond. Her green parenting journey has been filled with cloth nappies, second-hand everything, and learning how to make her own cleaning and skill care products. So welcome, Linda. And next, I would like to introduce Elizabeth King. Elizabeth is Weleda skincare expert, a facialist and highly qualified in several therapies. She has specialized in a holistic approach to beauty for 20 years And an experienced trainer, Elizabeth, has recently created Weleda's new Ofqual regulated CFI level 4 course for holistic anaestheticians focused on the life of touch. And I really love that term, the life of touch. Sounds really wonderful. Before moving to the West Midlands, Elizabeth ran a private skin care practice in London and was featured in Vogue as one of the 5 top facialists. She has also looked after many high-profile clients and celebrities over the years, and even had the privilege of giving Nelson Mandela a facial. Now, that really must have been an amazing experience. And Elizabeth currently offers facial at the Eliza Therapy Centre, a complementary health clinic in Stowbridge, and at the Rolf Steiner House in London as well. So really honoured to have such an experienced and knowledgeable panel. And last but not least, welcome to all of you who have joined. Please introduce yourselves in the chat and also put any questions you have for the panel there as well. And we'll have some time at the end to go through the questions. Now, for the first question, I'd like to go to Charlotte. And it's, why do you think we should be talking about harmful chemicals? Charlotte, thank you.
Food is the largest exposure for the largest percentage of babies in the United States. And I don't see any reason why that wouldn't also be true in the UK. So we've done a lot of work on identifying heavy metals in the foods that babies eat and pushing companies and the government to do something about that.
Sure. I mean, what's your thinking on this, Linda, as a mother, when it comes to one of the very basic requirements of life, food?
So it's just really shocking to me, actually. It's the fact that the governments aren't protecting us from these harmful chemicals, and that it's that things are put on the market and they're not safe for us to just buy off the supermarket shelf. And I think that's one of the things that has come out. So I've just started doing workshops for Green Baby, and that's one of the feelings that have come out with, I've been talking to other parents about these issues, and they're like, aren't these things like okay for me to use? Aren't they safe already? You look on the back of products and stuff, and there's a whole list of confusing words that you need a science degree to understand. So it's really frustrating, and that we can't know for certain that things that we buy from the shops are safe for us.
So we kind of believe if it's on the store shelf, then it's safe to buy, but it's been properly regulated and stuff, where in actual fact that nothing could be further from the truth, really. Elizabeth, what do you think we should be talking about harmful chemicals when it comes to personal care products?
Absolutely. Well, the skin is our largest organ, and and it's there to protect us, really protect us from the outside world. But it's a breathing organ, and I think that's what we can often forget about. And this breathing organ has pores, so it can very easily, just as important things need to come out of the skin, like oil and sweat. So substances can easily penetrate. And, if one just considers, well, it's an organ, would we do what we're doing to an internal organ that we, apply directly onto our skin? And, this is a big question. And, needs to be thought about, a sort of a conscious connection with one's skin. And, if one just thinks about baby skin, a baby, when born, it's 5 times thinner than an adult skin. It's still forming. The processes are still forming and still developing. That outermost layer of the skin is, its protective layer is about 30% thinner. The oil glands and the sweat glands are still developing. They only really become fully formed later on in the years. And those have their own processes to create what we call an acid mantle on the top of the surface of the skin, which really keeps our skin intact, the barrier function intact. So, you know, you can imagine this vulnerable baby's skin that is still developing. It needs all its energy in creation, is really undermined when harmful synthetic chemicals are applied to it. And yeah, it's so misleading and so confusing, because you go out there, you're reaching for products that you're trusting, really, aren't you? It says baby care, so it must be safe. But yeah, far from it in some cases. And you know, the UK, the highest amount of eczema and conditions in babies, you know, that's says a lot, isn't it? You know, in terms of food and what we're applying to the skin.
So, I mean, you just touched on there a little bit. I mean, if we are looking for products in the store, and you know, there's words used like natural and organic, you know, can we trust them, or must we look for something else on the labels to kind of reassure us?
It's a starting point, but it's a small starting point, you know. And because really what you want is a certification, because absolutely agree what Linda says, you turn the product, or you know, around, and you've got this list of ingredients. Sounds very complicated and very confusing. And I always say, if something does sound it, it's worth looking up. But what gives you peace of mind is having a certification. You know, can I give you some examples now of some good ones? So, you know, Weleda, for example, you know, all our natural and organic products are certified with NATRU, which was one of the really highest, you know, in terms of strict standards. So we feel right, and that was what we want to be aligned with. But equally, you've got Soil Association in the UK, you've got another international one, which is Cosmos. I think it's important to look for additional certifications, like, you know, is it free plastic, zero plastic inside, and UEBT, you know, because you Helen, you mentioned, of course, about the environment. So, you know, what's friendly for us is going to be and should be friendly for the environment. You know, it's both, and it really is. So yeah, the ethical yeah, for biotrade, Union for Biotrade, I think that's another important one. And then, you know, it's been respectfully sourced, and there's the transparent chain all the way through. So the certifications for me, I think, is key.
Is the way to go. And I suppose if we kind of, you know, protect the most vulnerable, the developing fetus, if we set standards for that, then we protect everybody, theoretically. And I just to come back to Charlotte, in your research, you were saying that the food is contaminated with heavy metals. Where are these coming from, these heavy metals? And can we stop them at source, or is that impossible?
It's a really important question. Some of the heavy metals come from the contamination that that men have created over the last century. Mercury, for example, is often found in the same layer as coal. And so coal has a lot of mercury. The burning of coal puts mercury into the air, and then it comes down onto a field and gets picked up in a root vegetable, for example, or it comes down on spinach and contaminates spinach. Arsenic was used for many years as a pesticide. So rice grown in a field that used to grow cotton is going to have a lot more arsenic than another batch of rice grown in a different field. Arsenic was also used in apple orchards for many years. Lead sometimes got used as a way to make fertilizer heavier so it wouldn't blow away. So there are fields that are contaminated with lead. It's the dumb stuff, what we call legacy problems, that we're still dealing with today. But it's also true, you know, not everything that's natural is safe, right? The radiation is often natural and not safe. Arsenic is a poison and natural. And so there are soils that have more lead, more mercury, more arsenic than other soils. And it's an important thing to know. Whether you have a garden that has a lot of lead in it, maybe from old lead paint that used to be on a building, but maybe it's always been there. And some vegetables, some fruits do a better job than others at pulling up whatever contaminants are in the soil and putting it into the food. So knowing which foods will do that and which foods don't is just an important part of this, because just like picking products that are certified, I would add that we have all of those certifications because the government has done such a bad job that the good companies have banded together to create a higher standard than what the government should be giving us. But in foods, organic means no pesticides. It doesn't mean no phthalates. It doesn't mean no lead. It doesn't mean no arsenic, but there still are ways to deal with it. One example is just that infant rice cereal has much more arsenic than infant oatmeal, which is at the same price point in any store. So there are bananas, eggs, oranges are all very clean fruits and vegetables. Butternut squash has less contaminants than sweet potatoes or yams. So just knowing what's on the safer end and what's on the less safe end, and choosing the safer products, I think can go a long way to lowering the risk for both mothers and babies.
And I mean, what about if we grow more of our own products as well? If we, like when there's a lot of food growing projects, if we test the soil, if we use our own soil in our own gardens, can we reduce the levels of heavy metals? Then obviously, if we do it on a brownfield site, it's not really going to work. But yeah.
It's important to do soil testing before you start growing fruits and vegetables. Usually it's a very inexpensive test to look to see if there's lead in your soil. And but I also think it's just wise to think about raised bed gardening and what you grow right around your house, because every house that's more than 50 years old had lead paint at one time. I wouldn't grow the food I'm going to eat at my foundation. I would leave that for flowers and bushes and trees, and grow the food I'm going to serve my family in soil that I've tested and I know is safer.
I suppose one of the things we highlight in the Green Baby Project, and we highlight quite a lot of things, but if you're thinking of becoming pregnant or you are pregnant, one of the first things you're going to do is kind of renovate the space to bring the new baby home. So you need to think about not doing that possibly yourself if you have old lead paint on the walls and stuff, or checking it out or getting somebody else to do that. Have you come across anybody asking these questions in the workshops, Linda, or is it something you thought about yourself when you were pregnant?
Do you mean with the home furnishings and things? Helen? Yeah, it is one of the things that comes up, and I mean, one of the things that I say is just to try to choose sort of the more natural products, so things like wood, things from nature, really. Avoiding plastics as much as possible, and I mean, painting and things it's awful, isn't it? It's off-gassing all those chemicals into the air, and you can really smell it. And it's the same with cleaning products as well. So to try to really avoid those strong chemicals and try to choose products that don't have any or low VOCs, which is a technical term. Basically, those awful smells that come out of those products.
So ditch the air fresheners straight away.
Yes, which I always say is more an air polluter than an air freshener.
Yeah. And choose with your nose, I think, is a good bit of advice mostly, although not everybody can discern the synthetic from the non-synthetic. And I suppose, we're talking a little bit about what we can do to avoid these harmful chemicals, which is great because information is power. But, you know, I mean, what should our governments be doing? You know, because, you know, all these products are on sale. We go into the supermarket and there's nothing to, apart from certification, to indicate whether they're safe or not. Some of them don't have all the list of ingredients on their labels. We don't know what pesticides have been sprayed on our fruit and veg. So what can we do in terms of our governments? Elizabeth, do you have any idea in connection with skincare?
Well, one thing I can certainly urge is and that we can all do, is becoming a member of the British Beauty Coalition, Sustainable Beauty. You know, who are a fantastic force of, product brands getting together, having a collective voice and saying, this is what we need to do for sustainable beauty. And and that is essential, really. So decisions that are made, product development, all these things have that at the forefront. So yeah, British Beauty Coalition, I think, is an important one. Become a member, definitely.
I mean, one of the bits of information I picked up, and this has probably changed in terms of numbers, but Charlotte, so the EU has banned or restricted more than 1,300 chemicals, while in the US it's probably just 11. It's probably a bit more, a bit less now. But what are your thoughts, kind of looking from afar at the EU regulations? I know we've worked a lot together, the different groups, trying to push legislation, better legislation.
It's one of the many, if you'll allow a Yankee to criticize UK politics. Leaving Brexit was bad for babies and bad for anyone who cares about chemicals. That over the last 25 years that we've known each other and worked together, Helen, the cosmetics directive, in a way, was a result of your good work and our good work and the work of many other groups to list the chemicals that we know are carcinogens, that we know are reproductive toxins, that we know can cause birth defects, and to say they have no place in personal care products. That was something that the EU did. And then it went on from that to really think, okay, let's move beyond personal care products. Let's create the first real system of regulating chemicals, and called REACH. And it's really, it should have happened 50 years ago. It should have happened 100 years ago. But the idea that if we don't know that a chemical is safe, you can't use it. Something people believe the government already does. You're talking, Linda, about the workshops that you're doing, and that people believe if it's on a store shelf, it must be safe. They believe that there is good government and that it's protecting them. And we deserve a government that fits those beliefs. We just don't have one. And so REACH was really an effort to say, well, let's give the people in the EU the kind of government they deserve and protect them from dangerous chemicals. And without that kind of protection, I know we in the United States, we fear that the US will become a dumping ground for the products that you can no longer sell in the EU, including by companies that are headquartered in the EU. And now the UK has the same concern that we're going to have a lower quality stuff than that you can't sell in EU countries.
So I suppose this is like a kind of a, well, I always say it's like a three-pronged approach. Is what we can do as consumers, what we can do as citizens, and also what we can do as workers as well. Because another area of concern is workplace exposure. Certainly to the developing fetus in the first 3 months of pregnancy, when sometimes people don't even know they're pregnant. And you can get moved from unsafe jobs to a safer area. But that will be my worry, that the workplace level should be set for the most vulnerable, which is the developing fetus. And then there's, no need to worry. But also, on the other hand, if we stop producing and including all these harmful chemicals, we stop exposure to, or lessen exposure to workers as well. A question, sorry, I'm just looking at some of the questions that are popping up, because maybe Linda, could you say something about people are worried about overcoming the financial barriers to purchasing sustainable certified products for women with limited means and limited local places to buy them as well, if you're out in the middle of the countryside and there's no local health food shop or whatever?
Yeah. So I've so as mentioned in the introduction, I also run a social enterprise called Sunny Jar, and we actually we teach people to make their own cleaning products and a little bit of skincare as well. It's just and things that you can find in your supermarket shelves. So, you know, cleaning with, and back in the day as well, you know, your grandmother probably did this, you know, cleaning with vinegar, cleaning with bicarbonate of soda, and all these things are like safe for us to eat, but they're also really great at cleaning too. Those are some really good options to these instead of cleaning with these you know, harmful chemicals.
Sure. Have you any suggestions, Elizabeth?
Yes, well, I mean, you know, doing something, you know, at home, again, keeping it simple, less is more, less is more approach is key. Yeah, you know, just thinking about what you can do. I think knowing that there are alternatives, you know, is an important thing. So, you know, not reaching for the mineral oils, but reaching for plant oils. You know, there's the coconut oil, olive oil, almond oil, sesame oil. You know, these wonderful plant oils which have such a great affinity to the skin, can be integrated and understood by the skin, and really help support it to become a, you know, a protective barrier. And yes, you know, making your own, but being sure also, I just want to say, of the quality, you know, of the ingredient that you're working, you know, you're reaching for, that it is an organic, again, certified, that you can feel confident if you're making something at home, that it's, you know, it's actually supporting you. And yeah, you're not just, oh, I'm creating something, so it's going to be good because it's natural. But I think it's the same thing applies. But really, yeah, less is more, being aware that there are alternatives.
Sure. And just being, we always say, if we're doing our cosmetics workshop with essential oils, people tend to, because they think, oh, this smells gorgeous, I'll add more of this. And they're concentrated substances. So they can burn the skin off you. So be really careful. If it says 2 drops, it means 2 drops.
It really does. Yeah. So thank you, Helen, for saying that. And that is it. We have a tendency as humans, don't we, to to do more or apply more. It says once, we double it, and I think that's very important. It's there for a reason, and natural. Yeah, you know, respect it, nature.
Yes. Yeah.
You've just reminded me as well of my son's 6 now, and we've never used soap or shampoo with him. It is very much less is more with him. It's just, you know, washing with water, and I mean, he is starting to get a bit sweaty in this weather. But yeah, like you know, you don't need all these certified organic products on the, you know, expensive products from health food store. You can just go without as well.
Sure. Charlotte, have you any words of wisdom on that? How you can kind of keep things to an affordable? You can make right choices, but it's affordable.
I think less is more is something you can also apply to the way you eat and the way you feed your families. It is that we know that the harm of chemicals is cumulative, you know, that it adds up, and a little bit of phthalates and a little bit of bisphenol A and a little bit of lead together can cause harm. But the opposite of that is also true, that a little less lead, a little less phthalates, a little less BPA gives your skin and the rest of your body more of a chance to fight back and thrive. So anything you do, from rinsing your rice for a long time before you cook it, to eating, to serving your teething child a frozen piece of banana or a frozen kitchen spoon, rather than a teething rusk made with rice and with lots of contaminants in it. It was one of the, we found that rice cakes, which of course I fed my children instead of cookies, thinking they were a healthy alternative, that rice cakes were the most contaminated food with arsenic. So instead of a rice cake, a frozen piece of orange or a spoon or a rusk of bread that is just hard enough to be a good teething toy can be a safer alternative. And anything we do to lower the levels of exposure that we're getting and that we give our babies helps, gives our body more of a chance to thrive.
Sure. I mean, I suppose we kind of suggest people do kind of a toxic tour. We may call it something else of their home, and identify things that they can kind of work on reducing, you know, if possible. So, you know, things like changing your cleaning products to safer cleaning products or simple cleaning products is a very quick kind of an easy way to do stuff. Look at your personal care products. You know, you may issues around furniture and flooring are possibly more difficult, especially in rented accommodation. But, you know, at least there are certain things you can do yourself to kind of reduce exposure. And I suppose another question really again is there's so much dangerous, harmful exposure in the workplace and the workspaces with a gendered division, mostly populated by women, and also considered safer, you know, office are considered safer than, you know, construction sites and whatever. Kind of what can we do about this to kind of, you know, because we call it triple jeopardy. If you're exposed in the workplace, say you're a cleaner to cleaning products, and you go home, you clean your home, and then you go into the wider environment and you know, the air is polluted with the cleaning products or the water. What can we do about workplace exposures? Charlotte, I know you've got a lot of experience in this with the Blue Green Alliance.
It's my other job, yes. So the I think it's where safety and health processes and committees and power make a big difference. Every product that's used in the workplace is supposed to be labeled according to a UN system called the Globally Harmonized Standard of Classifying Chemicals that the UK is a party to. And taking those safety data sheets and taking the labels that are on workplace products that don't exist, rules that don't exist for consumer products in the same way, and taking them very seriously and making sure that they're all being reviewed, and that any product that has a health warning, the process happens to look for a safer alternative. You know, I know we talked earlier about the exposures that happen during pregnancy, but I like to remember Gudgy Cook, who's a Akwesasne midwife, saying actually women are the first environment, and that we shouldn't wait until a woman is pregnant. We should be protecting any woman or girl who could be pregnant, and then we would be protecting everybody, which just seems to me so central to the way Wen thinks about things. That if there are chemicals that cause birth defects, PFAS is now an important example. There should be no exposures. We can figure out a way around that, but only if we're paying real attention to what chemicals are that are used in the workplace, and insisting that safer alternatives be looked for.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I like that. If you set the standard for everybody, basically, and I mean, it's like that the fact that actually sometimes women aren't even considered in the research around these chemicals. You know, they're safety standards set for workers, but there's no gendered or sex diversity considered really about the impacts on different people. And you know, again, that's something we should be calling on from our governments, from our Health and Safety Authority, the HSE in the UK, for more recognition of the gendered data really on these chemicals. We've got some more questions here. One from Jackie from Pink Ladies Support Group, who are doing breast cancer support group in Northern Ireland, who do great work educating the public and anybody and everybody about harmful chemicals. She said she's been delivering a risk presentation to Short Start mother and baby groups. And I have seen so much change by introducing apps like Zuka. I don't know if that's something you know about, Elizabeth, the mothers' WhatsApp groups, and educating and raising awareness on dangerous chemicals in baby products. What do you think about independent groups like Zuka, who are not for profit and independent? Have you heard about them, Elizabeth?
I've just heard about it now, and that's so
Already,
wonderful. I mean, there's just wonderful, you know, independent groups, and these apps are really, really helpful. And I think absolutely, you know, download them on your phone and make use of them. It's you know, yes, we have a right to have a safe environment, unfortunately, and it's the reality. We have to also have that responsibility of, you know, at the moment, looking up those ingredients and making sure we feel safe and okay.
sure.
So yes, absolutely.
Have you used them, Linda? Have you come across?
I have used Yuka, and yeah, I think it's great. I think anything that you know, educates you, you know, learning from these things are amazing, and it's another way to sort of get yourself educated and understand more about what's in different products and stuff. The only thing I would say about Yuka is that it does, because it has, like, you know, its own calculation assessment system, it might rate some things higher than others because of different factors. Like one might have, this is food related, it might have more fiber than another, so then that might be highly rated, but then that might also have extra additives added to it that might not be considered in the assessment. So but it's still a great an app to try and use, and yeah, I do use it.
Okay, so we should include more information on the apps as well.
More information on the apps as well. Yes.
Yeah. Probably a question for you, Charlotte. Where can I find out what foods are safe to eat and which ones aren't? I have a 4-month-old and 11-year-old. Many thanks, Dora.
Yeah, I answered the question in the chat.
Okay, all right.
But since you asked, very quickly, that if you go to the hbbf.org website, our most recent report is homemade baby food safer, and you can find both a PDF to download, but even just in the executive summary, it has the 10 most contaminated foods that we found and the 10 least contaminated foods.
Sure. Okay. So yes, go and have a look at that. Anything to add, Linda or Elizabeth?
Not to that point, no. I did want to pick up on the affordability. You know,
Sure.
still, yes, you know, being able to afford these products sometimes can be difficult, and we spoke about less is more, but also another thing to consider is multitasking products, you know, or approaches. So if you're using an oil, or I mean, my favorite was calendula, you know, Weleda's calendula baby oil, because that was to support the skin, but also as a cleansing, to create my own cleansing wipes, but also for baby massage. And if one is then able to create your own oil, as I've said so already, but things that are multitasking means that, you know, you've got another one is our all-purpose balm, you know, one product that does multiple things, and you just, it's more affordable in that way, and you're also less exposed to all these different harmful ingredients that are out there. Yeah.
And I suppose, you know, there's something about subsidizing of cheap food as well. that cheap fast food, harmful sugar-rich foods can be also subsidized, whereas there's a very high premium on, say, organic foods. I think the organic subsidies are gone in the UK for organic food, and it can be quite expensive for farmers to switch. So that's another deterrent, maybe, for producing organically, which may be better for the environment and better for everybody, with less pesticides at least. Which brings me to the next question. Shouldn't governments be regulating these products for safety? Why aren't they doing this? It's a $24 million question. Why aren't they doing this? Who wants to answer that? They don't care. They don't care is a simple answer. Yeah, go on.
I just read an article the other day about pesticide use in the UK, and some of these pesticides are being banned in the EU. The EU legislation is tightened around these pesticides, whereas the UK are sort of diverging from the EU now that we've left the European Union. And there's a lot of theories about it. It was I think this one in particular was whether or not it would it's to support, it was to make sure sugar beets, the crop was successful, I think, in this instance. So sometimes it feels like maybe a little bit of profit over health, perhaps, and yeah, so that's frustrating too. And profit for planet, I guess, is the other one.
Charlotte, have you got any ideas about how we can push governments to do better?
Well, I liked your idea, Helen, at the beginning about what about the UK adopting all of the chemical rules that exist in the EU and then doing +1s. It's like, and then let's make them 10% better and stronger than what's going on in the EU. That's a goal worth fighting for. I think that it's just true that industry has too much power and the rest of us have too little. And I would add that, for example, for the foods that are contaminated by the agricultural practices of 100 years ago, you don't want to blame the farmers for that, right? They didn't do it on purpose. So instead of what should we do about yams having too much lead, or rice having too much arsenic? I would suggest that what we need is programs that work with farmers to lower the levels every year, and that what we really need for those kinds of chemicals is a standard that keeps getting better. That if we say there can be 50 parts per billion of arsenic in rice this year, in 5 years our goal is 25, and then in 5 years, right, and that there are programs in place that take advantage of the science that really is figuring out how you can grow things that are healthy foods that we want to be able to feed our families. How do you grow them in ways that have them be the least contaminated? But instead we pretend the problem isn't there and set a very high standard so that farmers aren't left in the lurch. And I think that what we need, and what the EU in many ways has tried to do, is to set chemical rules that understand that we may not know everything we need to know about how to get rid of a chemical now, but we can do better in 5 years and even better in 10, and instead of pretending that the problems aren't there.
I think, there has been a lot going on trying to drive DEFRA here, to regulate better and the HSE to regulate better. But what's missing actually is the public pressure. You know, it's all very well for us as NGOs to go and talk to DEFRA and say, you must do this, you should do that. But if there's no public external pressure, then nothing changes, nothing happens. You know, one of the, we've been trying to push regulations on period products, for example. DEFRA aren't going to do anything unless they get public pressure to do that. So I mean, if you take away one thing from this webinar, it's how you actually go contact your elected representative and make some noise. Certainly, you know, if you're concerned about, you know, what your children are going to inherit and how you're going to feed them, and, you know, what kind of environment is going to be left for them. I'm trying to look at and I don't know if there's anyone here from the food project. You know, I know there's things you can do about food combinations and growing things differently after each other, but it's not my area of expertise. So there's a question on reusable nappies. What's your opinion on reusable nappies? Linda, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. I used to use reusable nappies on my son, who's now 6. And yeah, definitely, Wen runs reusable nappies for London's Real Nappies for London scheme, where we work with different councils and provide information, and some of the councils have vouchers as well to subsidise the cost of real nappies. And like thinking about the amount of waste I've saved over the last few years, it's you know, it's not comparable. Like, and plastic waste as well. It's often the mainstream nappies are made of plastic. There's sometimes synthetic fragrances in them. It's for me, I would always go the cloth nappy.
Any thoughts on that, Elizabeth or Charlotte?
Just 100% agreeing, Linda. Yeah. Yes, with my 2 and their cloth nappies, and all sort of stretched over their clothes, you know, clothes stretched over. But absolutely, you know, and it's breathing, and it's, you know, healthy for the skin as well. So you've got healthy for the environment, healthy for the skin. There's no comparison, really.
Good. So that's a thumbs up for you. Oh, there it is. There's a link there. We have a question. It says, is there a list of ingredients we should find on products? On cosmetics, yes, there is. But my experience with looking at, say, cleaning products, there's very little information. Obviously, on fruit and veg, there's nothing to say the different kind of things that have been applied to them. What are your thoughts on that? On that, there has been a call looking at citing all the pesticides that have been used on fruit and veg, for example, in the supermarket shelf. Any thoughts on that, Charlotte?
But I think that getting rid of dangerous chemicals is better than asking for them to be listed on the label. But it's a start, you know, and I think there's some wisdom behind the idea that when a company is required to list everything in their products, including what's in the fragrance, they're less likely to put dangerous chemicals in the product. It's not completely true, but it's kind of true. California has very good cleaning products laws that were passed with public pressure, including from house cleaners. That are organized somewhat in the state of California. I think, you know, it's always easier to go talk to public officials when you both have a problem and you have a solution that would make them a hero or a heroine to their community. And so looking at some of the better laws on labeling in California, I think it's in the second round of legislation, there's also language that you can't just say fragrance, that if you have a carcinogen, if you have a known hazardous chemical in the fragrance, you have to list that, including if you have phthalates in the fragrance, which is where Helen, you and I started. So I think looking at some of the solutions that exist in the EU, that exist in California, that could be a way of organizing public support for more good things.
Yeah, I think it's been, it's certainly been a very important part of my work, working with the unions on this. And they have definitely been supportive, even if they're not a union that works on the issue per se. The members have been really interested, for example, on the safe cosmetic stuff. I did lots of workshops particularly with Unison on this. So, talking to the union as well, because they're the ones that will probably be exposed the most if they're working with the product day after day, for example. And yes, California has done some very good things on certain chemicals and things like nail salons as well. Because again, the worker in the nail salon is more exposed than the person come in once a month to get their nails done.
And just to add, apologies, that SEIU, which is the biggest union in the United States of janitors and cleaning staff, actually has a green janitors program that they market in a way to high-end office buildings and high-end apartment buildings, that this building is cleaned by union janitors who are only using certified healthier products, which is better for them, since they're cleaning all day, and better for the occupants of the building.
There was a question about testing kits for soil. Anybody got any recommendations how you would test your soil? No, something we might.
I know in the United States that it's something that local agricultural extension departments do, but I don't know the alternative in the UK.
It's we will follow that up afterwards and find out. Linda, do you know by any chance?
No, I think I'd have to look it up, I'm afraid.
Sure. Somebody's put in the chat that Wen uses this place for their community garden, safesoil.co.uk. And there's another link as well if you want to have a look at what these people are offering. Just checking. So let's kind of look at wrapping it up, but just go around from each of you. Are there some simple things we can do to reduce exposure? Do you want to start, Elizabeth?
Well, as I said, be aware of the alternatives. Keep your approach, less is more. You don't need to have loads of different lotions and potions sitting in your cupboard. Get the check for certifications on the products, and multitaskers. Make your own oils. I know we shared on Weleda UK Baby yesterday a way to make your own calendula baby oil at home, and for yourself. Very simple. Keep it simple is my main message, and keep informed. Today was just brilliant. It's a way of, yes, us all engaging and being active in this important topic.
Great. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Keep it simple. It's good advice. Linda, have you any?
I would echo what Elizabeth has said. And I guess the other thing that I would add is also maybe try to reduce your use of plastics as well. Think about even plastic food wrapping and things like that. If you can buy loose vegetables, try to go for the loose vegetables, because microplastics do shed. And yeah.
Okay. Yeah, avoid the plastic and loose vegetables. I think that's the way to go as well. Definitely. Charlotte?
Take your shoes off at the door.
Take your shoes off. That's a good one. Yeah, we do that.
Wash your hands. Wash your children's hands, especially before they eat. Wash your veggies. Wash your fruits. Scrub vegetables. And sometimes it's useful to peel if you don't think that you're getting everything off in scrubbing. And wash your rice a lot.
Yes, I will do that, and I eat a lot of rice cakes as well. So that's because I'm gluten intolerant, but that's informed me. I need to look at other diverse kind of forms of food. thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom. It's been really great. And the hour's flown by and I've learned so much. We really appreciate your time and your expertise and your knowledge, and do keep in touch. We'll share the information. I thank you very much to all the people that joined. Just to say, we have a Green Baby Day Action Toolkit, which is available for individuals, businesses and organizations to download. Please do our online survey. You have a chance of winning Weleda products. And also we have a giveaway where you can win over £100 in Weleda products as well. And all the links are on our social media and on our website. I'd like to thank Alice for helping us with our tech, and yeah, everyone that's signed on as well. So thank you very much all, and happy Green Baby Day.
Thank you.
Bye.